I am Peter Thomson, and I was born in 1952, just 4 years before Bertolt Brecht, dies. Now, Brecht was a very complex figure. He's a very disputed figure in a lot of ways. But he lived through some of the most difficult times of the 20th century, and he recorded them. And that's what's so fascinating, because the times today seem to be replicating that. Tonight, I'm going to tell you a story about the past and about today, about me and about Bibi, born in 1898. I'm Bertolt Brecht. I am a playwright. We're going on a journey that for me started a few years ago, but for Bibi it starts 90 years ago, in the carnage of the First World War. He's lucky, comes from a middle-class family that sent him off to nearby Munich University, but between his 16th and his 20th birthdays, 2.5 million German soldiers die, many of them young men of his generation. He avoids the worst of the horrors directly, but sees enough to become a lifelong opponent of war. And then he goes for fun in a big way. I wanted to introduce Brecht's poetry to people. That was one very important part of doing the show, because his poetry just isn't so well known. And I've loved it since I was a young student. But it's not just about Brecht, it's not just about me, it's also about what's happening around us in the world. You see, that time when he matured as a poet was the time of the Great Depression in the 1930s. And many people think we're going into a similar time now. So there's an awful lot of messages in the material that I use.
When evil doing comes like falling rain, no one calls out, stop. The cries, too, fall like the rain in summer. Just like they do in Afghanistan, in Darfur, in Burma, in Colombia, in Iraq, in Gaza. You'll have your own list, your own priorities, but war, torture, murder and oppression, march on.
The times he lived through were so difficult, he had to be so careful. If, for instance, some of the poems he'd written before he went across the Soviet Union had been found in his possession, he almost certainly would have been shot.
Actors.
Der Haifisch, der hat Zähne und die trägt im Gesicht. Und Beckies, der hat ein Messer, doch das Messer sieht man nicht.
By 1941, he'd already begun to realise that the Soviet Union was not the utopia that many people wanted socialism to be. In fact, it had gone very badly wrong, even then.
Solely because of the increasing disorder in our cities of class struggle. In July, you fish my voice from the pond.
He was caught between two systems, the capitalist system that he fought against as a young man, and then the socialist system that went so badly wrong in his eyes. Bibi leaves Germany the day after the Reichstag fire. He's 35 years old, at the height of his creative powers. And for the next 6 years before the war begins, and for 9 or 10 after that, he will be a refugee. Bibi attracts women as lovers and collaborators who are devoted to him. Now, his first child is born when he's 21. He doesn't marry Paula, but he does marry Marianne 4 years later when she's 5 months pregnant with his second child, but sadly that doesn't last. following year, he has another child with the actor Helena Weigel. Now, in a few years, he'll divorce Marianne and marry Helena. But the sexual exploration, that goes on for years. The last recorded child was born in 1944. That was with Ruth. Now, I am an adopted child, so what I'd quite like to know is, where was he in April 1951 when I was conceived? It's an entertaining 70 minutes. And if you want to find out more, go to www.changingthewheel.co.uk.